Hi, Piper kids. I miss you very much. And I thought one of the ways that we could keep connected is by reading a chapter in Poppy and Rye by Avi each day. And the thing is that for those of us who were here all school year, we read Poppy at the beginning of the year. And we started Poppy and Rye, which is the next book in the series, but we didn't get to finish it. So I figure we'll start at the beginning for those people who have joined the Piper class so they can hear the whole thing. You'll notice that we have some characters in this series that are the same in Poppy and Rye, and we have some characters that will be new. Also, Austin is our videographer, so when there's pictures, he'll be able to zoom in or zoom out. Otherwise, I will read the chapter, and as I always do, I'll stop along the way to add my 2 cents in. And I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that you are able to make connections with the Poppy book. So one thing we always take a look at is this book was written in 1998. So we always look at our copyright date. So it is written in 1998. And it does also have a map. Austin will kind of zoom in for the map. It does have a map at the beginning, just like Poppy had. It does show Dimwood Forest, which is where Poppy story took place. This talks about the new home of the mice right here for this book. The old home of the mice. The dam, you'll hear that in our first chapter. Old home of the mice. Old path of the brook, and that goes right along here. You will also see where some beaver dams are. There's an inset. There's one of our text features, inset. An inset of the lodge, of the Beaver Lodge. So I will be referring back to that sometimes as we are reading along. So we are ready to start chapter 1, which is called Clover and Valorin. Clover, love, you need to wake up. Something awful is happening. Clover, a golden mouse, was small, round, and fast asleep in a snug corner of her underground nest. Too sleepy to make sense of the world being spoken to her, she opened her silky black eyes, looked up, and gasped. Was that Ragweed leaning over her? Ragweed was a particular favorite of her 63 children. Yes, Clover had 63 babies so far, and Ragweed was one of her favorite. Ragweed, he had gone east in search of adventures, but had not been heard of for 4 months. Clover missed him terribly and kept wishing he'd come back. We know the truth, whether Ragweed will come back or not, unfortunately. Her eyes focused. She could see more clearly now. Valorin, she asked, is that you? Valorin was Clover's husband. He was a long-faced, lanky, middle-aged golden mouth with shabby fur of orange hue and scruffy whiskers edged with gray. His face bore the fixed expression of being perpetually overwhelmed without knowing quite what to do about it. At the moment, his tail was whipping about in great agitation. So that means agitation is really upset about things. Is something the matter with the children? Clover asked. She had recently given birth to a new litter, her 4th that year. She was so tired she hadn't ventured from the nest in more than a week. They're fine, Valorin assured her. But Clover, you've got to see what I've discovered. You're not going to believe it. Can't you just tell me what it is? Clover replied with a yawn. She never got enough sleep. Clover, Valorin whispered, we're in great danger. A startled Clover looked about the nest where she and Valorin and all their children had made their home for 6 happy years. A small, deep, and comfortable nest consisting of 3 chambers. Each of its rooms was lined with milkweed fluff. There were a family room, a master bedroom, and a children's nursery, where 13 of the children were currently sleeping. The most recent litter, 3 in number, and barely a week old, were still blind and without fur. They were with Clover. Clover, love, Valorin urged, please get up. It's not the children, but it will affect them. badly. With Clover, an appeal to family never failed. She forced herself up. The two mice made their way to the entry hole in the ground surface. The long, whistling tunnel had a few storage rooms, one filled with nuts, another with dried berries, a third with seeds, built into the walls. Though Clover was, as usual, hungry, there was no time to eat. When Valoran reached the ground surface, he stuck his nose out of the entry hole, sniffed, then gazed about. Certain there was no foxes, wild cats or snakes, or any other danger about, he hauled himself out of the hole. Clover followed. Tall, leafy trees, bushes, and brambles, Austin ready, filled the late summer sky, aglow with the light of a full moon. The air was humid, the breeze soft. Barks and buzzes, grunts and chirps seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Valoran scampered down one of the many paths that radiated from the nest. When he took the path that followed a steep decline, Clover knew they were headed for the brook. The brook, as the mice called it, meandered lazily between low, leafy banks. Water lilies floated on its wide, shallow surface. There fireflies flashed, butterflies danced, mosquitoes, like ancient instruments, droned. Water bugs scooted, cattails standing tall swayed in the rhythm of the night. With nothing rough or dangerous about the brook, the young mice loved to frolic about the banks, rarely with the water more than 6 inches deep. Splendid to splash in, fun to swim in. Sometimes the mice made rafts of bark chips and went boating. Indeed, it was the closeness of the brook and its serenity that caused Clover and Valoran to build their nest and raise their family where they did. And when it talks about the serenity of it, that just kind of means like the calmness and peacefulness of it. That night, everything was changed. The water was muddier and deeper than it had ever before had been. A full 3 feet of bare earth at the base of the pathway. The children's beach had sunk beneath water. Lily pads and cattails were gone. No bugs teased the brook's surface. Chips of wood floated here, there, and everywhere. "Look!" Valoran cried in a hushed voice. He pointed downstream. At first, Clover didn't see it. Only gradually did she perceive the massive mounds of sticks, twigs, and logs that spread across the full width of the stream. "Why, my goodness," she gasped. "It's a dam! But why?" Valoran pointed to the water's edge. "What should I be looking for?" asked the puzzled Clover. "The water," Valoran whispered. "Watch." Clover stared until, with a shock, she jumped back. "Valoran," she cried, "the water is rising." "Exactly. But if it keeps coming this fast, our home will be flooded." Valoran nodded. "Clover, love, I'm afraid the whole neighborhood is going under." But, Clover stammered, "who would do such a dreadful thing?" "Take a gander out there," Valoran urged. This time he pointed across the water. Clover stared. At first she thought she was seeing nothing more than a floating brown lump of earth or wood. Then with a start, she realized it was an animal swimming on the water's surface. It was a large, portly fellow with thick, glossy fur, a black nose, and 2 beady eyes. 2 enormous buck teeth, brilliant orange in the light of the moon, stuck out from his mouth like chisels. So I think some of you probably have a prediction of what's floating out there. She thought it was just like mud or a log or wood, but then it said large, portly, meaning kind of round, thick, glossy brown fur, black nose, little beady eyes, and then 2 enormous buck teeth, brilliant orange. That kind of gives us a clue. The author gives a very good description of what it is. A beaver? Clover explained. Just to say the word brought understanding. Beavers had come and dammed the brook. As Clover and Valoran stared, the beaver saw them. Lifting his water-soaked head, he offered an immense toothy smile. So here Clover and Valoran are like totally panicked about their home. and their family. And now this beaver sees them. He starts to swim over, and now he has this big smile on his face. He's not realizing how panicked the mice are. "Bless my teeth and smooth my tail," the beaver called out in a loud voice. "I do believe it's my new neighbors. Hey, pal. Evening, sweetheart. Tickled pink to meet up with you. The name is Castor P. Canad, but everybody calls me Cass. Hey," he added with another toothy grin. "You know what the old philosopher says, a stranger is just a friend you haven't met." And there is Austin. And there is Castor P. Canad. And there is Valoran and Clover looking up. You can see the size of the mice compared to the beaver there. And then the buck teeth, the beady eyes, the slick back fur. As for me, I'm head of the construction company that's doing the work here. Canad and Company. Progress without pain. That's our motto. But you've destroyed our brook," Clover managed to say. "Easy does it, sweetheart. Easy does it," Mr. Canad boomed with good nature. "Don't need to make a mountain out of a molehill, do we? Or for that matter," he added with a laugh that set his belly to shaking, "an ocean out of a puddle." Without saying another word, Valoran and Clover turned and fled back up the path. "Have a nice day," the beaver shouted after them, though it was the middle of the night. "I mean that sincerely." As the two mice dashed towards their nest, all Clover could think was, "Oh, Ragweed, please come home. We need you. Where are you?" So right now, you can kind of think of the main characters now. So our main characters would be, if you say Clover and Mr. Canad and Valoran, those would be our main characters. Our setting, so think about where the story takes place, our setting. And I would say it is, you can either say Clover and Valoran's home, you can say down by the brook. Those would be kind of our settings. And then as you start, this is only our first chapter, but as you start to think about it, when you think of our character traits of each of the characters, kind of think about what words would you use to describe those three characters. So tomorrow, our next chapter will be Poppy and Aerith. Now, Poppy and Aerith are from our previous book that we read. So you kind of can think about those characters that we read about. You have a lot of character traits set up for those ones if you were here for when we read Poppy earlier. But I wanted to go back, Austin. I wanted to go back to the map at the front so we can talk about where the dam is. So they're looking about here, the old path to the brook. So here's kind of where they are right now. Here's this path to the brook and the old home of the mice, which right now it's the only home we know of the mice, is right here. And compared to the dam and how the water is rising. And so they are nervous about their home, and will their home get flooded out? And what are they going to do if Cass does not decide to change where the location of the dam is? So tomorrow we'll see how Poppy and Aerith play into this next chapter. So I hope you guys are having a great day. I will see you soon.